Dr. Bob here again. Chunk of white king salmon. Stirring up some vegetables with some avocado oil. Drinking a little green tea with some stevia, the PYURE brand. It's an extract, it's a good one. It's about $5 for quite a few servings. I forget exactly how many. It's pretty sweet, so it doesn't take much. Boy, I sure wish I could tell you I caught this thing today. I did go fishing today with the mayor here in town, and I want to talk. You know, the first video I did when this COVID thing broke out was to talk about the physiology of it and why people were doing poorly and things you might do to mitigate how well you would do if you got it. And I actually made a statement saying, look, I don't have anything to add to what the government's telling you about how to not get the disease. And I'm not saying they're doing a poor job, but I just want to talk a little bit about how seriously you should take all of those precautions. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about how seriously I take them. For example, the mayor and I trolled around a little bit today, and we had a discussion about whether we should go or not, because are we breaking the spirit of the social distancing law and the containment law? And, you know, I'm an advocate of getting outside, as you guys are aware, especially throughout all of this. And we all need stress relief, and the mayor's job is really difficult. We're in a tiny town, and like many small towns across the country, they don't have the ability to do intensive care or ventilator therapy. We even don't have the ability to provide unlimited amounts of oxygen. But we have a special, unique situation, is that we're basically an island because we're surrounded by glacier and ocean, and the only way to get in here is fly in and out. And if we get people that are sick and need intensive care, they're going to have to fly. And so we've got a lot of planning to do, and we needed to talk, and he was tired of being on the phone. He'd been on the phone all weekend nonstop. So we went fishing in a boat, more than 6 feet away from each other, never touched each other, and probably looked like idiots because we're outside riding around in a boat, but we both kept masks on the whole time. That's how serious to take this. You know, when this all happened, I was scheduled to go to Montana. The state of Alaska had not created a quarantine yet. But I knew that you know, I had to travel through Seattle to go work in Montana. And I called the hospital administrator in Montana and said, you know, I'm going to have to come through Seattle. At the time, Seattle's the hot spot, right? Are you okay with me working? Because I don't want to fly all the way there if you're not going to want me to work. And she said, no, we wouldn't be able to replace you, Bob, at this late of a time frame. We really need you. So I went. And while I was there, the governor set the first mandate that I saw that pertained to any kind of, you know, the social distancing thing started to come out. And in that also, from the state chief medical officer, was a plea that we not see patients for 14 days if we traveled out of state. Now, let me tell you how I travel. N95 mask every flight, and that was going down to Montana. When I get on the aircraft, and I fly a lot, so I got upgraded to first class on all the flights, and the flights weren't even full. When I sit down in the chair, before I touch anything, I ask the flight attendant to bring me wipes. I know they're doing a great job sterilizing the plane, but I'm going the extra mile. I wipe down everything around me. I wipe my seat belt off before I clip it, okay? Then I wipe down my hands, and then I act like I'm getting ready to go to surgery. I basically don't touch anything. Now, the first flight, I got that mask on. The guy next to me looks like he thinks I've got cooties, you know. Nobody else is wearing masks, and the flight attendants aren't wearing masks. I don't understand why flight attendants aren't wearing masks, because they're exposed to all that, you know, turnover of people. And so they're a potential vector in my opinion. But anyways, I explained to everybody, look, I'm a physician and the stakes are higher if I get this disorder, this disease. And I'll be honest with you. You guys know how I feel about this. Compromised health is the risk factor, not the disease. Now, there may be some genetic things there that can increase your risk of a bad outcome. I don't doubt that. And I maybe have the bad gene, but I doubt it. I think it's mostly what we see. Young people, little kids don't get it at all because you know what? Little kids are so metabolically healthy no matter how hard they try to mess themselves up, right? They fill themselves with sugar, but they're running around, they're active, they've got good lung capacity. Well, I'm not going to say I'm a little kid, but I'm pretty healthy. I know what I put in my body and it makes my cells work right. I know what my inflammatory state is. I know my lung capacity is very good because I test myself VO2 max. I can move like 127 liters of air in a minute at maximum output. And that, I'll just tell you, that's really high. 75 liters is pretty good for an adult male, and I'm not a big guy. I know my cardiac output is great. I know my immune function is awesome because I practice what I preach. I'm not worried about what happens if I get the virus. The stakes are high for me because I'm a doctor, and I have to see people who, if they get the virus, they will have a bad outcome, okay? And I don't want to be the reason for somebody to die. And I want to be able to keep myself able to work. So here are some of the things that I've been doing to make sure that I am less likely to contract this virus. Okay, first off, I've been wearing masks all along. When they said that the lay people didn't need to wear masks, I was like, what? And I obviously knew what the deal was there. They were worried about running out of masks for healthcare personnel. But it was silly to imply that we shouldn't all be wearing them. And they came around. Don't touch anything that could have been touched by another human being recently without washing your hands before you touch your face or feed yourself or anything of that nature. Now, point of fact, have you ever seen a slow motion video of a sneeze? It is the most disgusting thing you ever saw, right? I mean, stuff goes in 8 feet in every direction. So imagine somebody walking down your grocery aisle that sneezes because they weren't wearing a mask. Everything in that aisle is contaminated now. So I have been washing my food in the sink and the things like, well, like this bag and all these bags got washed when I brought them back before I stored them, okay? I brought all my own food here in an ice chest. I made one stop at Fred Meyer's. Fred Meyer's is excellent. They've got wipes when you walk in. I grab the wipes. I wipe down my shopping cart. I wipe down my hands. I got all the food. I loaded it in a 50-pound ice chest. When I got here, I unloaded it and I decontaminated everything. I'm not eating out. My wife wants to have sushi when she picks me up in Anchorage tomorrow because the flights are shut down. Raven Air went belly up, and I didn't get flights on Grant Air in time to get a flight, so she's having to drive to Anchorage to pick me up. She was bringing the kids. I said, I love sushi. I said, I'm afraid to eat raw food served by somebody else because you just don't know, and I can't afford to be compromised and transmit this disease to this beautiful town of Cordova, for example, where an outbreak here would be higher stakes because of the isolation and the lack of resources. I'll eat double sushi when this is over to make up for not being a good patron to the places where I eat sushi. I'm really almost afraid to let people cook for me, and I don't want to ruin it for the takeout places, for the restaurants. So many businesses are hard hit. So many people are under increased stress. I'm starting to see the evidence of that in people, starting to have symptoms and things. So all I'm saying is you got to do everything that's logical about preventing yourself from transmitting this disease. not getting it if you're young and healthy. I understand the millennials weren't worried about this. I saw the videos of the spring break beach party still going on, and I got a really cogent text message from a friend of mine, and I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, if this disease was causing an increase in mortality in the younger portion of the population, your grandparents would be protecting you. And they were speaking to the millennials and the selfishness of their behavior. So what I'm saying is, I haven't been within 6 feet of another human being other than my family when I'm at home without a mask on in a month. I don't touch anything without cleaning my hands. I decontaminate anything that I can conceivably think could have got contaminated by somebody who wasn't conscientious. And then, of course, to make sure I do well, I take good care of what I put in my body, and I do my exercise every day. Sorry if I drug on, but I just want everybody to really take the quarantine seriously. I think we're looking at it going for a while. We're going to see what happens in Italy and Spain, 2 countries that we can rely on their information as they start to relax their social distancing and quarantines, as the disease is clearly decreasing there, and they're probably a month ahead of us, and then we can sort of see what happens in New York when they finally get to do that. And if there's a sudden re-hump, we may be looking at a longer time frame of having to learn this behavior. So do the best you can. Think, especially when you have compromised loved ones. All right, thanks a lot.